Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Interview Skills Series presentations. My name is Michelle, and I am a certified career development practitioner with Nova Scotia Works Island Employment in Port Hawkesbury, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. My role as a Nova Scotia Works school liaison is to help junior and senior high school students with their career exploration journey. I am pleased to be able to present some important information with you and hope you find these presentations helpful on your path to employment. This session will be specifically focusing on panel interviews. So let's get started. What exactly is a panel interview? Well, a panel interview is a type of job interview. They are conducted by a group of 2 or more interviewers. Typically, you will be in a room with several people at a time who work with the company. Usually, each interviewer on the panel will ask the applicant one question at a time to assess their skills and abilities. The panel is then responsible for making the hiring decision. Hiring managers use panel interviews to gain perspective from other people in the organization, reducing the risk of making a bad hire. The panel's goal is to make the best hiring decision possible given the information available about the position and applicants. Panel interviews might seem intimidating because you have to meet with so many interviewers at the same time. However, they do not have to be scary. Knowing what to expect and preparing accordingly can help you feel confident. Why do employers choose to conduct panel interviews? Panel interviews are conducted to analyze the interviewee's skill set and overall efficiency in handling a team of members with multiple questions. They are conducted for a number of reasons, some of which include analyze the interviewee's ability to handle pressure, assess their communication skills and how well they socialize, how flexible the interviewee is with different types of people, ability to coordinate with every employee and how well they get along with all members on the panel, behavioral characteristics or how well they establish their professional etiquettes in an interview, and their multitasking ability when asked many questions at a time. How to prepare for a panel interview. When preparing for your panel interview, you'll want to cover all of the typical preparation steps for any interview, like researching the company, reviewing your resume, and coming up with examples and stories you can share to highlight your past accomplishments. Yet, there are some additional things you should do and keep in mind if you want to ace your panel interview and walk in fully prepared for this specific type of interview. 1. Practice great body language and eye contact. Be ready to maintain eye contact with each person on the panel with slightly more attention toward whoever asked the question you are answering. Practice your body language in general, including eye contact, posture, keeping your hands and feet still, and no fidgeting. If you do not feel confident or do not have good body language habits, it is going to become a bigger problem in a panel interview. This is because panel interviews tend to be more stressful, and with more people present, you need to make eye contact and interact with each person. Number 2, ask a lot of questions. It's important to ask a lot of questions in a panel interview. Therefore, a big portion of your effort in preparing for the panel interview should be writing down great questions you can ask them. It might be a good idea to bring the questions in a notebook. When you ask your questions, you can either direct a question to a specific person or to the entire panel. So now you might be asking, well, how many questions should I ask in my panel interview? Well, it is suggested to ask at least one question per person on the panel. So for example, if there are 4 people on the panel, you should have 4 to 5 questions prepared. Number 3, try to find out who will be on the panel in advance. If you want to prepare to ace your panel interview, you should spend some time learning as much as you can about the people on the panel. How many people are you meeting with? What are their names and their job titles? You can ask the person scheduling the interview for this information. Finding out a little bit about them will help you feel more confident and relaxed in the interview and give better answers to the questions they ask you. So do not neglect this part of preparing for your panel interview. Also, be sure to treat everyone you meet and speak to in the same respectful, polite manner, regardless of their position within the company. You never know who the hiring manager is going to ask an opinion from before making their decision on whether to hire you. Number 4, bring a copy of your resume for each person on the panel. This is a simple and easy way to look prepared and make sure everyone on the panel interview is familiar with your background and experiences. So when you are preparing for your panel interview, print out enough copies of your resume so that you're sure you'll have enough to hand out at the beginning of the interview. You may even want to print out a couple of extra just in case. Number 5, be ready to take notes. Bring a notebook and pen and feel free to make notes if you need to. You are going to be taking in a lot of information in a panel interview, so it may be helpful to make notes of key facts about the position, when to follow up, when you ask questions later and get their responses, etc. If you are taking notes, though, it is very important to remember to maintain good eye contact 90% of the time throughout the interview. Number 6, build rapport and try to make a strong connection. Do your best to build a connection with as many people on the panel as possible. Find common areas of interest, share stories, mix your questions into the interview instead of waiting until the end. This makes it feel more of a back and forth conversation and less like an interrogation. It is important to remember that during a panel interview, they are not only evaluating your skills and experience, but how you will fit in with the current team and company culture. Number 7, learn the names of your interviewers. It is very important to learn the names of each person on the panel. You can make a note of each of their names when you first sit down. The best way to remember is to repeat the person's name back to them after hearing it. Then you want to make sure to use their name when answering questions. This will help with rapport building and make the conversation more personal and relaxed. Number 8, thank each panel member at the end of the interview. Whether you successfully remembered each person's name or not, look them in the eye, shake hands if appropriate, and thank them for their time at the end of the interview. This will ensure you leave a great final impression before leaving them to discuss what they thought of you. And number 9, know who to follow up with before leaving. Don't leave your panel interview without asking, who will be in touch regarding next steps and when can I expect to hear feedback? This way, you will know when to follow up after the interview and who to get in touch with if you have questions. It is also a good idea to send a thank you email to each person 1 to 2 days after the interview. How to perform well during a panel interview. Try to engage with all interviewers and don't just focus on the most outgoing panel member. You don't know whose input will be important in the hiring decision. Presumably, everyone is in the room because their opinion is important, so be sure to engage and make eye contact with each person. While one of the reasons companies hold panel interviews is to save time, another is to understand how candidates will conduct themselves in group situations. So be prepared for fast-paced questions, cross-talk from interviewers, follow-up questions, and for your interviewers to potentially have different opinions and perspectives. It is helpful to think of this type of interview as more of a conversation rather than a Q&A session. As is with any interview, maintain good body language, eye contact, and smile. Answer your questions with as much detail as possible so the panel can get a good sense of your skills, abilities, and fit for the job. Common questions asked during a panel interview. Interviewers typically ask a mix of behavioral and situational questions, as well as questions about the candidate's personality and career goals. Here are some common panel interview questions. Tell me about yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is your biggest strength? What is your biggest weakness? Why do you want to work for a company? How would a colleague describe you? How are you at handling tight deadlines for projects where there is minimal supervision? Describe a time when you were working on a team project and there was a conflict in the group. How did you handle this situation? Tell us about a time when you had to deal with a difficult person. How did you prevent the situation from escalating? Give an example of a time when you had to explain a complex issue to someone who was unfamiliar with the topic. Be sure you have prepared answers to these questions in advance and practice them. The panel interview is always a good interview method when it is chosen and used wisely. It is an excellent way for a number of people within the organization to learn about each candidate and make the best hire. Having multiple people on an interview process helps to prevent the company from hiring a bad fit, as there are many people involved in making the decision. Remember to be yourself, be authentic, and let your unique self shine. As previously mentioned, I work for an organization called Nova Scotia Works. There are offices all across the province who help people find and maintain employment. If you or someone you know is interested in receiving assistance from one of our Nova Scotia Works staff, follow the link on this slide to find a center closest to you. It should also be noted that youth who are within 3 months of graduating are able to access services at any one of our centers. Additionally, if your school is fortunate enough to have a school liaison, you are certainly able and encouraged to reach out to them for assistance with all aspects of job search and career decision making. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and good luck on your career endeavors.